Hey everyone, this is Jack Bourne. I'm the founder of Deadline Funnel, and today I've got a very special guest. We've got Josh Stanton here today, and great to have you here, Josh.
Awesome to be here. We just had a chat on our podcast, which was fantastic, and I'm super excited to dive in and jam on some cool strategies today with you.
Absolutely. So let me give you a little bit of an intro so everyone knows about you. So Josh and his lovely wife Jill, they've got a website that I just love the name. It's one of the best named websites I've ever heard. Screw the 9 to 5 .com. So you should definitely go look them up. So the way that I actually met Josh was because he's a Deadline Funnel client. And he sent us a message, and then we got to chatting, and I looked up his website, and was really impressed with what they were putting out. They are interviewed on a whole bunch of podcasts, and so then we got to chatting, and Josh and Jill are really, really talented, and they teach a process where you can create a Facebook group. And so they've really systematized how to do that, whether you're just starting out with a new, say, online course, or if you've got something going. So, for example, I told Josh, I'm thinking about creating possibly a Facebook group for Deadline Funnel clients. So this is a topic that's very interesting to me. And Josh is coming out with a course that he's co-creating with David Simon Garland. We'll talk about that at the end here. But we're going to be talking about specifically. We're going to be diving into a specific topic, niche topic, narrowly inside of the whole concept of building a Facebook group, which is how to monetize it without pissing off your Facebook group. So let's go ahead and kick it off. So why don't you give us a little bit of the backstory? Give us a thumbnail sketch of how you started with Facebook groups, and that might be a good place to kick it off.
Yeah. Okay. So we actually we started a Facebook group because we kind of have issues. We had issues like getting to know our audience. Like when you have just an email list, it's quite difficult to. It's not really like a two-way conversation, basically. It's like, you read my emails, and occasionally people will email back, but not really. And so we heard about Facebook groups a couple of years ago, and we started our first one back then. It was called the Screw the 9 to 5 community. And that grew so much faster than what we were expecting. I think within the space of about 12 months, it grew from nothing to over 45,000 people in that group. Wow. And they're all entrepreneurs, like looking to start businesses. They already have businesses, blah, blah, blah. So we grew that out. And we had a lot of success with that particular group, but we also made a ton of mistakes along the way too. For example, one of the things that we didn't anticipate was the amount of spam that would actually go into a group of that size, and how difficult it is to moderate something with 45,000 people in it. And so we didn't create the right kind of rules and the right kind of environment to form the perfect type of community to help fuel our business. And so what we actually did is we shut down a group of 45,000 people.
Wow.
And it was a big call. I remember when we made that call, it was like, yo, should we be doing this? We're about to press a button here to shut this thing down. Should we shut this thing down? Because it's generated, like $300,000 or $400,000 worth of revenue for us. And we made that call. And so what we did is we reopened with a whole new set of rules, and quickly that group has grown from like zero. I think it's like almost 12,000 people in that group now. So it grew from 0 to 12,000 in a few short months, just because we kind of knew what we were doing at that stage. And so the group for us has allowed us to really connect more so back and forth with our community, and mainly we use it as a way of trying to understand what their wants and needs are, so we can start to build products and offerings based around those. And I don't really think that there's any other platform that allows for that two-way conversation in order for you to figure out what people truly need. So our Facebook group has been very powerful for us.
So I want to get into some of the ideas that you have that you're going to share about how to monetize it, but
Yeah.
Something that's always been really the obstacle, the block that I have that's prevented me from moving forward with this, is just the time commitment. And yes, I have a team, but they're
Yeah.
busy doing their thing, and so I keep wondering, am I going to have to hire someone on? Which maybe it's worth it, but I have a feeling that you've come up with some systems. So what would you say about the time commitment involved?
Yeah, so the main thing is you have to just be really organized. So we have a procedure that we run, and one of the things we love to do is we create a monthly content calendar. So the good thing about Facebook groups is you can schedule out content, right? And I know a lot of people will use a tool like, say, Meet Edgar, which like automatically schedules things on like a week-to-week basis. The problem is with using those third-party apps is that your reach is significantly lower as a result of that, as opposed to if you schedule directly through the Facebook group platform. It's a lot better that way. So what we do is at the end of the month, we organize 30 days essentially worth of content, and these aren't like long posts. These aren't like super long articles, like 1,000-word articles or anything like that. They're sort of engagement starters, so they're like questions to get the engagement going. Like that's the main thing we want to focus on. We also have like posts that go out the same time each day as well throughout the week, and so those are kind of like our theme type posts. So they tend to stay the same each time. So as far as the time commitment goes, we automatically put everything out. So it takes us about a day to sort of schedule everything out for the whole month. And then after that, we spend maybe 15 minutes in the morning and then 15 minutes in the afternoon just going through and commenting on any of the posts that we've submitted or anything else that kind of needs addressing as far as what other people submit to. So you can get away with doing like 30 minutes a day in a Facebook group, no problems.
Okay. Terrific. And I'm sure that's covered in the course that you're coming out with David Simon Garland, which
absolutely.
Which we'll talk about in a bit. And by the way, hopefully everyone's heard of David Simon Garland's. He was an early client of Deadline Funnel. I knew about him before he joined Deadline Funnel, but it wasn't until later that I realized that he was an early advocate telling lots and lots of people. So I owe a huge debt of gratitude to David Simon Garland. So thank you, David.
Yeah, and he's a funny guy too.
He's a very funny guy. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in, because if we're gonna build this group, even though we want to build a community and have this interaction, we also are running a business. And so how do we balance these two things of making money, but at the same time not make it feel like everything's just revenue driven?
So this is a big issue a lot of people have, is when they start their groups, they tell people, like, a lot of people start their groups and say, I'm not going to like sell anything to you in this group. This is going to be a free resource for you. And the problem with that is you're setting a certain mood and you're creating a certain environment in that group, which is like, if anyone posts anything that is like somewhat related to people purchasing, then everyone is going to be up in arms and it's going to create this really awkward situation. And so you never want to do that. You want to start a group and let people know when they first join that this is a group for your business. That's like the first thing. I just want to set the stage with that. After that, we don't, and this is a big mistake a lot of people make, is we never really post direct links to sales pages. We never do that. And the reason why is it doesn't really work. You know, like if you post a link directly to a sales page and you say like, here, go buy my product, no one's going to buy it because they're going to immediately get their defenses up and be like, oh, this is a bit weird. Why is he trying to sell me this thing? So we don't do that, right? We have a really cool process. It's a 3-step process that we use. So I don't know, do you want me to dive into maybe the first step?
I do. Let's go through it.
So the first step is Facebook groups have the poll option, right? So we use polling a lot. And we use it for a couple reasons. 1, for market research. 2, for engagement. And 3, to really help us figure out what people are willing to purchase, right? So we'll run a poll and we'll say something like, hey guys, we're about to start coming out with our next batch of content, and we're just wondering what topics you guys are most interested in. And in the poll, we'll have 5 to 10 different options. They'll be like, are you interested in learning about sales funnels? Are you interested in learning about Facebook groups? Are you interested in learning about blogging, about all these different topics, right? And based off that, people will go ahead and submit their answers, and we'll take that top result. So we ran last year, and sales funnels were really big back then, right? And they still are really big, of course, but that was clearly the number one topic. And so we took that topic and we said, okay, we're going to create a sales funnel around sales funnels here, and this is how we're going to actually start moving people from our group towards becoming customers of our brand. So that's the first step, is to run that poll to find out what that initial idea is that you're going to move forward on.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you've got the poll. Now I want to be clear. Now these are not people. Okay, it's a mixture of people who have done business with you before, but probably more people who have not. Correct?
Exactly. There's a lot of people. So one thing you'll notice is when you start a Facebook group is they tend to sort of grow based off the level of engagement that you have. So the more engagement you have, the more often it's going to show in the sidebar in the group's platform, the group's app. So it'll be like related groups or popular groups or whatever it is, right? So generally, we grow by a few hundred per week just because we have really good engagement. Whereas I know a lot of people who don't have good engagement, their groups don't really grow that fast. So that's the main thing. That's the main priority we want to work on. We don't actually spend money trying to grow that group or anything like that. So it's super important that we let you guys know about that. You got to make sure the engagement is high and your group will grow organically. And that's really great because all the new people joining, they're not customers yet, right? And so it's a good chance for you to bring them in, let them get to know you and your brand before eventually wanting to go on and purchase. So the first step is we ran this poll. So we've grown engagement, we've grown this group, then we ran a poll to find out, okay, what is this audience most interested in right now? And let's say they said sales funnels, right? That was the topic from last year. And so what we did then is we moved into the second step is we took that and we created a 3-step evergreen sales funnel based around that particular topic. And the steps for the sales funnel is really simple. The first thing we do is we create the offer. So we create an offer called the Perfect Sales Funnel in this case. And it's just a course showing people how to create a similar kind of sales funnel. The second thing we did is we created a lead magnet for it. So something related to sales funnels. In this case, we found out people, they just wanted to take our emails that we use in our sales funnels. So we just created those as templates and we provided them to them when they opt in to grab it, right? Then the third thing we do, and this is a really important part, because this is where you're going to be driving people from your Facebook group, is we create what we like to call a read magnet, which is just a blog post essentially based around that topic. And so we have a blog post, and it's like how to create a dangerously effective 4-part sales funnel. And it's a really popular blog post. And so that's the starting point of the sales funnel. So step 1, read magnet. Step 2, congruent lead magnet. Step 3, congruent offer based around it. So that's the second thing we do.
And that's interesting that you, I want to point out that you're building, you listed those from back to front initially. And that's the order that you create them in. I would imagine, is that because you want to know where they're ending up? And so you kind of work backwards from there so that you know what content to write.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we created the content first, then by the time we get to creating the course may be a little bit different based off the content. Whereas when you're creating a course, you're going to be much more thorough, right? And then you sort of say, okay, this is what the course is all about. What do we want to provide people in the actual free content? Because generally you're not going to provide them everything in the free content that is provided in the course. So you're right. That's exactly what we do.
And then you shared with me the last time that we talked that I think when people opt in, you're using sometimes deadline funnel as a short call to action. So why don't you walk through the mechanics of not the mechanics of actually how you copy and paste, but like the kind of the tactics behind that.
What it looks like. So one of the things that we wanted to do was include a fast action bonus or a fast action opportunity essentially to purchase at a lower rate. It's kind of like a one-time offer. So we were looking around for something. I think we were using just the timers in ClickFunnels at first. And it was kind of annoying because people were refreshing the page and they were like, oh, I don't get it. The timer's reset. This is ridiculous. And so that was when we came across Deadline Funnel, is we found out that we could make it so if people refresh the page, the timer wouldn't refresh, essentially. It would stay to whatever it was when they initially came to the page. So what we do is we have a 20-minute one-time offer countdown on the thank you page. But we do it a little bit different to most people. We don't just when they opt in, they don't just hit a sales page and say, here's a product, buy it. Instead, what we do is we do a value-driven one-time offer, which is essentially kind of like another blog post off the back of it. So when they opt in, we say hey, just want to let you know we're sending your email templates out to you right now. They should arrive in about 10 minutes. While you're waiting, read this piece of content. And it's I think it's 3 mistakes most people make when it comes to sales funnels. And so what happens is a lot of people will read that content And then when they get to the bottom, that's when we introduce the one-time offer to them. So we're not hitting them straight away with the product. We're giving them a chance to we're giving them more value before we actually mention this one-time offer to them.
Interesting. So, as I'm listening to you talk through this process that you use, it's really fascinating because it's, at least to me, tell me if I'm right, it seems almost like writing an epic blog post and then having a content upgrade, and then that leads into your offer, your funnel. But the difference is that rather than, say, trying to take people directly from paid Facebook ads or some other mechanism like that, what you're doing is you have an intermediary step where you're using a Facebook group. You're building that up as sort of almost like I know that this is not an accurate analogy, but sort of like your house list. I know that it's much more than that. You get the interaction, but that is where, once you have this thing created, rather than, okay, we have the epic blog post, now let's go buy some traffic and bring people to it. You've got the group, and what's great is that there's really zero guesswork because you ask them, what are you most interested in? And so at least you have a very informed process to be able to create that thing that they're most likely going to buy.
Totally. We're essentially building up a bit of a launch pad organically for free, which I think is really important because when you move into the third step, so at this point you've run a poll, you found out the best topic, and then you've created a sales funnel based around that. By the way, if you don't want to create the course, like one thing I think it's quite possible to do is to do like a bit of like a pre-sale essentially. So before you create the course, you can launch it out to your Facebook group and be like, hey, like we're going to take on a few people at a lower price. We want to help you build out this we want you to help us build out this program. So that's one way of doing it. For us, we were like, we know this course is going to sell, right? It was pretty obvious. It was like the most popular thing. So we create this 3-step sales funnel. And then what we do is we go back to the group, and we haven't run any ads at this point. We go back to the group and we say, hey guys, remember like a month ago how we ran that poll to find out what you were most interested in, what content you were most interested in learning about? Well, we went out and we did a whole bunch of research, and we wrote this epic blog post or this epic piece of content based around sales funnels. Here's the link. Boom. Heaps of people from the group, and now they're hooked, right? They're interested in it, and they'll check out the post. A lot of them will go through and purchase the product through the funnel. But at the same time, you're also using them to go and share all that content out to other people, which grows traffic over time too. So for us, it's like we've seen benefits like in terms of SEO as well with this too, because our group has gone and shared our content out like a lot. I think that post, I think in the end it's had like something like over 1,000 shares or something like that. And because of that, I think we're ranking on page 1 for like how to create a sales funnel and all these other keyword terms. So now we're getting this organic traffic, which is just going through the sales funnel every single day and generating revenue for our business without spending money on ads.
So this is really, really cool. Now, so you're taking this bigger group, which a lot of them have not done business with you. You're getting an idea of what they want. You're creating this process, the lead magnet, and then the one-time offer. But this is not a huge purchase. So it's moving them from someone who's a community member. I wouldn't say necessarily prospect, but kind of a community member on the free side of your business, over to someone who's made a purchase. So I want to ask, what happens next? Is there some sort of immediate upsell? I'm guessing not, but is there any sort of immediate upsell after that, or is this just a way for you to open up the relationship, and then that kind of brings them into your world as a client, and then you can sell them other things later?
Yeah, so I think what's really important to note at this stage is that this person who has purchased that introductory offer, and these are offers which are like less than $200, right? So they're not like super expensive offers. They have become a customer, right? And there's a big difference, I believe, between a customer and a client.
Absolutely.
So a client is someone who's willing to like work with you ongoing. A customer is just kind of like purchase that one-off product, right? Mm-hmm. So from here, sorry.
No worries.
From here, we want to transition them from a customer into a client. And so this is where we move towards we have a core offer after this, which is our membership community called Screw You. So it's like, hey, you've learnt how to create effective sales funnels for sure. But there's a lot more to running a business than just creating sales funnels. So we have this incredible community of like-minded entrepreneurs. We have 18 fully loaded courses covering things from like how to get started with your business to hiring a team, and all the steps in between. Why don't you come and join us inside of this community and hang in there for a long period of time? So, UPS, by the way. So essentially it's about upgrading them from a customer into more of a client-based thing. And you might have a coaching program after that, or you may have, in your case, you may have a software that you're looking to get them subscribed to. So from here, it's like you can kind of do anything, right? We just have this really simple 3-step process for getting them into a customer status. And then from here, we want to move them more towards being a client.
Yeah, and just even, I totally get your point of moving someone from customer to client. So if anyone doesn't understand the difference, rewind and listen, because there is a difference. Client is more of a relationship, customer is more of a transaction. But even going from the freebie community group to making a transaction is a big step. Because I would imagine if you look through your analytics and your metrics, the value, the revenue that you're able to generate from people who have done even one transaction with you in the past is much higher than people in the group who have never purchased from you before.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like all those people tagged in Infusionsoft, so we can kind of tell what the lifetime value is of those people. I think the main thing that this is a really cool tip is when you are creating links in your Facebook group, and let's say you're driving them through like these sales funnels through these read magnets, right? Make sure you set up UTM tracking on them, so that way in analytics you can see that people are coming directly from the group. That's really important. Otherwise, it's sort of like, okay, are these people, where are these people essentially coming from? So that's my only sort of suggestion on how to sort of track that. And what we can see is that our group has probably been probably created around about 50% of our revenue has come off the back of our group, which is pretty incredible if you think about it. Wow. And this is, like there's all these like crosses that happen too, like people are in our group, but they're also like seeing our ads too at the same time. So, but the reality is the group has really helped us build a bit of a relationship before they go ahead and become a customer. And that kind of increases our chances of moving them towards becoming a client.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like if you're on a bunch of podcasts and someone's heard you speak a bunch of times, and then they see an ad in your analytics, it might show that ad generated this sale, but in reality there was a whole lot of work, stuff that went into at least developing that familiarity before they saw the ad. So
yeah, really I think I'm a big proponent of the fact that you must have at least 7 interactions with someone in order for them to feel comfortable becoming a client of yours, right? And I think what Facebook groups kind of allow is you the chance to interact with them more frequently and more easily than email and stuff like that.
Yeah, you've developed the know, like, and trust before they've even entered your official funnel. I guess you could consider the Facebook group kind of the top end of the funnel, but still the point is that, just like you said, they're getting to know you. They're having multiple interactions with you before they've even had a chance to purchase anything.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a lot easier just interacting with people in that kind of setting as well. It is kind of a struggle these days interacting with your email list. But it seems like the reach, at least right now, is really, really good with Facebook groups. And so if you're having problems right now building a bit of an audience, I would say this is a great platform to get started with right away, because I don't know how long the reach is going to stay this high. If it follows the same trend as, say, Facebook pages, then there's a chance in the future that reach is going to be a lot less. So take advantage of it right now.
So real quick question on an advanced topic that I'm just curious about. Are you starting to use things like ManyChat and Facebook bots with your group in some sort of creative way?
So the problem with doing that is I I don't know, at least at this stage. I haven't checked it recently, but I believe back when we were trying to do that is that we couldn't interact through ManyChat in Facebook group posts. We could do it with page posts, but it may have changed. But I think it's a really, if you can do that now, I think it's great. I would say the best way of utilizing that combination would be through Facebook Lives inside of the group. So if you're setting up ManyChat, and let's say you want someone to opt into something, right? And let's say you're talking about Facebook groups, and I might have like some kind of lead magnet that I want to get people going down the ManyChat funnel. And so I'll just be like, we'll talk about Facebook groups, like 3 tips to like running a successful Facebook group or whatever. And then at the end, I'll say, hey guys, or at the start, I'll say, hey guys, if you want to grab your Facebook group's checklist, I'm going to send you a free checklist. Just type checklist below, and we'll send that out to you in a Facebook message. So that's another way of kind of like running funnel. There's so many ways you can run funnels off the back of Facebook groups. I know this one lady I spoke to recently. She has a Facebook group of literally like 250 people. That's it. It's such a small group. And she's really strict with the group too. Like if people don't comment or post within a month, she removes them from the group. Yeah. And she uses a tool called GridX to track who does that. So her group is always really, really small, but the engagement is super high. So she does like content. She's like content marketing coach. And so everything in the group is kind of around like how to use content marketing to grow your business. And so what she does is I think every Tuesday she'll do a post, some kind of post related to content marketing. Then anyone who comments back on that post, she has a really small group, anyone who comments back on that post, she'll private message those people and say, hi, I noticed that you replied back to this and you said blah, blah, blah. Here's what I think. Like she'll provide a bit of insight. And then she'll say, by the way, on Thursday, I'm having a training coming up, and I think she does like a paid training. It's like $100, and I only let in like 20 people or whatever, and I just want to invite you to that training. And so from there, off the back of that, she sells like her annual coaching program. And so she has a group of 250 people, but she has a coaching business of $350,000 a year off the back of one Facebook group. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Very interesting.
Which is a great lead into the project that you've got going on with David Simon Garland, because the two of you are teaming up to teach how to do this. So why don't you tell everyone where they can go sign up to learn more about this? Because probably right when this is going on, right when you guys are kicking this off, we'll be releasing this interview. So go ahead and share where people can find out about it, and give us a sneak peek about what you guys are going to cover.
Okay, so the course, or it's actually a workshop, so it's a one-day workshop, and you can find it by going to createawesomefbgroups.com. It's DSG's branding, by the way, create awesome things. Createawesomefbgroups.com, and we're going to be covering 4 things in the workshop. The first thing, we're going to talk about how to start your group the right way. Remember, I mentioned at the start, a lot of people will start a group and with the intentions of being like, this is a free group and I'm not going to sell anything and this is not for my business. And, that's a huge mistake. There's also other mistakes people make too. The second thing is we're going to talk about growing your group and some strategies you can use to grow a group. Literally, you can grow a group by 1,000 people within the space of 3 months. No problems at all. Then the third thing we're going to cover is how to engage your group, which is the most important thing, because without engagement, you don't get growth, and you also don't get people interested in your brand. And then the fourth thing is we're going to go into the actual sales component of it as well. So those 4 things at createawesomefbgroups.com.
Awesome. Fantastic. So is there any sort of parting tips or wisdom that you want to share?
Yeah, I would say the main thing with this is to get started. It really is. So if you know that groups may be a good opportunity for you, just get started, because if it doesn't work out the first time around, that's okay. Just like what we did, we grew a group to 45,000 people, but then we closed it down and we reopened it back up in a few short months, went back up to like 12,000. So for you, it's just about getting started and just learning like the actual approach to running a Facebook group. For us, it's been the most powerful thing in our business so far to date. And I really think that now is the time before Facebook starts bringing down the reach as well.
Very, very cool. All right. So I'll make sure that there's a link below this interview on the page, so you can just click through to that. If registration is still open, definitely jump in, because I know David Simon Garland and Josh are going to hand out, make sure that there's a lot of good content coming out. So this is a topic that I'm interested in, and so I'm excited about seeing the inside of this training as well. So Josh, thanks so much for joining me and for sharing your experience.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet.